Here's a 10-point outline to the officer. Introduce the officer, his personality, and his routine stops at the gas station. 2. The young gas station worker. Describe the worker, possibly a teenager or young adult, who seems nervous or distracted. 3. A seemingly normal interaction. The officer makes a purchase, and the worker rings him up, slipping a receipt into his hand. 4. The hidden message. As the officer walks to his car, he glances at the receipt and sees a desperate, hastily written message. 5. Message details. The message could say something alarming like, "Help, in danger," or "Call 911 quietly." 6. Officer's quick reaction. He immediately assesses the situation, scanning the store without drawing attention. 7. The hidden threat. The officer notices something off, perhaps a suspicious customer, an armed individual, or a hostage situation. 8. Calling for backup. He discreetly alerts dispatch while pretending to return to ask about his purchase. 9. Swift action. Depending on the threat, he either intervenes alone or with backup, leading to a dramatic confrontation and rescue. 10. Resolution and aftermath. The worker is safe, the threat is neutralized, and the officer acknowledges the bravery of the young worker. Possibly develop a newfound respect or bond. Is a seasoned cop with years of experience on the force. Known for his sharp instincts and calm demeanor, he has seen his fair share of tense situations. Despite his tough exterior, he carries a deep sense of duty and a quiet compassion for the people he serves. On this particular evening, after a long shift, he stops at a small gas station for a quick coffee, something he does often. It's a routine stop, a brief moment of normalcy in his otherwise unpredictable job. But tonight, something feels off. He doesn't realize it yet, but he's about to walk into a situation that will demand every ounce of his training and instincts. Behind the counter stands Ethan Walker, a 19-year-old gas station attendant working the late shift. He's a quiet kid, usually polite but reserved, never drawing much attention to himself. Tonight, though, something is different. His hands tremble slightly as he rings up the officer's coffee. His eyes dart toward the store's back aisle, where a shadowy figure lingers near the shelves. He forces a smile, but there's a tension in his face that doesn't go unnoticed. As Detective Carter reaches for his receipt, Ethan hesitates for just a second, just long enough to make the officer take notice. Then, in a swift motion, he hands over the small slip of paper, his fingers gripping it just a little too tightly. Normal interaction. Detective Carter steps up to the counter, setting his coffee down as Ethan rings him up. The familiar beep of the register fills the quiet store. "Long night?" Carter asks casually, fishing for some small talk. Ethan nods stiffly. "Yeah, something like that." His voice is quieter than usual, his hands moving quickly as he punches in the total. Carter hands over a few bills. As Ethan takes them, his fingers twitch slightly, and he avoids making eye contact. He slides the receipt toward Carter, holding it for just a fraction of a second too long. The moment is small, almost unnoticeable. But Carter's instincts, sharpened by years on the job, pick up on the subtle tension. Something isn't right. Detective Carter steps away from the counter, receipt in hand. As he moves toward the door, he instinctively glances down at the small slip of paper. His breath catches for a moment. Scrawled hastily in shaky handwriting are 3 words: "Help, in danger." The letters are uneven, rushed, written under pressure. His pulse quickens as he processes the message. He immediately stops in his tracks, his eyes subtly shifting back toward Ethan. The young worker is staring at the counter, pretending to be busy, but Carter notices the slight tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw is clenched. Something is very wrong. Without drawing attention to himself, Carter folds the receipt and slides it into his pocket. Details. Detective Carter steadies his breathing as he discreetly unfolds the receipt again, taking a closer look. The words are rushed, almost shaky, but clearly urgent. "Help, in danger." Below it, faintly squeezed into the corner, is another barely legible note. "Back room." Carter's mind races. Is Ethan the one in danger? Is there someone being held against their will? Or is this a robbery in progress? He quickly assesses the store. The shadowy figure he noticed earlier is still near the shelves, shifting slightly, watching. Carter doesn't make a move, yet. Instead, he casually scratches his chin, using the moment to glance at the store's layout. The entrance is clear, the aisles provide cover, and the door to the back room, just slightly ajar. Something Detective Carter's heartbeat steadies as his training kicks in. He doesn't rush, doesn't show alarm. Instead, he moves with purpose, careful not to alert anyone that he's seen the message. He steps back toward the counter, casually setting his coffee down. Forgot something, he mutters, as if talking to himself. Ethan barely glances up, but there's a flicker of understanding in his eyes. Carter subtly shifts his stance, giving himself a clear view of the aisles and the suspicious man lingering near the shelves. The man stiffens slightly, as if sensing something is off. Without looking directly at Ethan, Carter speaks just loud enough for him to hear. How many in the back? Ethan hesitates for half a second before pretending to adjust the register screen. Then, in a low voice, he answers, 2. That's all Carter needs to hear. His grip tightens around his radio. He has to move, now. Carter subtly presses the emergency button on his radio, signaling for backup without speaking. His pulse remains steady, but his mind is racing. 2 people in the back, 1 suspicious figure in the aisles. The man near the shelves shifts again, pretending to browse, but Carter catches him stealing a glance toward the back room. His posture is tense, his jacket slightly bulky, concealing something? A weapon? Ethan keeps his head down, avoiding eye contact, but his fingers tap nervously against the counter. A silent plea. Then, from the slightly ajar back room door, Carter hears it. A muffled sound, barely audible, like someone struggling to breathe. This isn't just a robbery. Someone is being held hostage. Carter takes a slow step back, keeping the suspect in his peripheral vision. His hand hovers near his holster. Every second counts. Backup is on the way, but he might not have time to wait. Up. Detective Carter knows he's outnumbered. With 2 suspects in the back room and 1 in the aisles, he needs to act smart. He casually adjusts his radio, pressing the emergency signal again, this time twice. A silent distress call. Backup will come faster now. The man near the shelves shifts uneasily, sensing something is off. He glances at Carter, then toward the back room, as if waiting for a cue. Carter takes a slow step forward, pretending to browse a nearby display. Stall for time. Keep them unaware. Under his breath, he speaks into his radio, keeping his voice low. Possible armed suspects, hostage in the back room, 3 individuals, moving into position. The response is instant. Copy. Units en route. ETA 2 minutes. 2 minutes. It feels like an eternity. Ethan, still behind the counter, flicks his eyes toward Carter, barely perceptible, but Carter reads it loud and clear. Hurry. There's no more time to wait. Action. Detective Carter tightens his grip on his weapon, his body moving instinctively. He steps toward the back room, feigning a casual interest in a nearby snack display. The man in the aisle stiffens, eyes flicking between Carter and the door. Then, a sudden noise. A muffled cry from the back room. Carter doesn't hesitate. In one swift motion, he draws his gun and steps toward the door. Police! Hands where I can see them! He commands, his voice firm but controlled. The man in the aisle reacts instantly, reaching into his jacket. Carter pivots, aiming directly at him. Don't move. A tense second passes. The suspect freezes, his hand hovering just above his concealed weapon. Then, from inside the back room, a loud crash. Carter doesn't wait. He lunges forward, kicking open the door. Inside, 2 men stand over a terrified woman, her hands tied. One of them reaches for a gun. Too late. Carter fires. 1 shot. Center mass. The armed suspect collapses. The second man raises his hands, eyes wide in shock. Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Carter keeps his gun trained as sirens wail in the distance. Backup is here. The gas station worker, Ethan, exhales in relief, his silent cry for help answered just in time. Within moments, the gas station is flooded with flashing red and blue lights. Officers storm in, securing the suspects while paramedics check on the terrified hostage. Detective Carter holsters his weapon as backup takes over, his heartbeat finally slowing. He turns toward Ethan, who is still standing behind the counter, his hands gripping the edge so tightly his knuckles are white. You did good, kid, Carter says, his voice steady but firm. Ethan lets out a shaky breath, nodding. I didn't know what else to do. Carter gives him a reassuring pat on the shoulder. You did exactly what you needed to. You saved a life tonight. As the suspects are led out in handcuffs, Carter watches the woman, now free, being comforted by paramedics. She meets his eyes, her expression a mixture of gratitude and relief. Another crisis averted, another life saved. As Carter steps outside, the cool night air filling his lungs, he glances at the crumpled receipt still in his hand. 3 simple words,